This video is an excerpt taken from the Pop Culture Mess podcast Best Comics of January 2021, which is available on all good streaming services. Now, if you're not familiar with Marvel's King in Black, the event has seen the Earth overtaken by Knull, an evil god from before the creation of the universe. He's essentially using a symbiote army to do his bidding, the worst of which includes that a sphere has formed around the Earth to cut it off from the sun. Giant symbiote dragons are flying around destroying anything in their way and turning the city symbiote. So symbiote covered streets and buildings attack and take over people and superheroes, turning them into vicious creatures under Knull's control, who then in turn attack other people. In short, it's a big old mess for the entire planet. Earth's mightiest did not fare well with the initial planetary takeover. They've had to scramble a lot, and halfway through the event, there are a couple of rays of light now to indicate that maybe they can turn things around and stop Knull. King in Black is driven by the main 5-issue event book and the ongoing Venom series, both of which are written by Donny Cates. Ryan Stegman's handling art for the main series, and it's really exciting to see him paired again with Cates as they work together on 8 of the first 10 issues of this Venom series from when it began in 2018. Iban Coelho is also back on art for the Venom series, having handled half a dozen or so issues in collaboration with the Cates throughout its run. It's really cool to see these experienced and skilled partnerships reform for the event to set a really solid basis for all the related material to build off of. And there is a lot of related material. In addition to the King in Black book and Venom, there are about another 60 odd issues that are event specific and related to the event. There's 2 event specific series set before King in Black, 6 event specific series set around or during King in Black, 10 King in Black one-shots, and 9 regular Marvel series crossing over with King in Black. Marvel have really gone all in on King in Black, and they're executing it superbly as a whole. If you're thinking a huge event built around Venom, he's arguably not even a second-tier Marvel character, then you're not really incorrect there. Though he's been around for nearly 30 years now, even the most cursory look at Venom's publishing history tells you that this is a sometimes title for Marvel, with fewer than 100 Venom titled issues printed over various limited runs and a few monthly series. He's not one of Marvel's all-time classic characters. If you asked a fan of comic books to name their favourite Venom storyline, there's a lot who'd probably bring up a Spider-Man storyline and the symbiote suit rather than his own books where he's paired with Eddie Brock. But there is a lot of love for Venom series since it started again in 2018. It's really clear to see the passion that Donny Cates brings to the book, and it's a smart move for Marvel to get behind what their most passionate creators are working on, rather than just leaning on their biggest characters. If you're unsure about King in Black, I definitely recommend giving the main series a run in conjunction with the Venom series. I'd also highly recommend getting into the wealth of material that's event specific and related to King in Black. It does vary in quality, so you're likely best off leaning into your favourite characters here. I've personally found the Spider-Woman, Thunderbolts, Deadpool, Immortal Hulk, and the Iron Man Doctor Doom issues to be really enjoyable and well worth a read. My personal favourite and recommendation is the 4-issue Black Cat event-specific miniseries written by Jed MacKay with the art split between Sia Fia and Nina Vakueva. The book starts with Felicia Hardy undertaking a major heist with her associates Bruno and Boris, which is rudely interrupted by Knull invading New York. In the chaos, Felicia finds herself fighting alongside Captain America, and before he's overtaken by the symbiote, Cap tells her that the key to beating Knull is freeing Doctor Strange, who's already been taken prisoner. Black Cat begins to formulate a new heist driven by revenge, one where they'll break Doctor Strange free. Of course, a cat burglar, a couple of mercenaries, a scientist, and a ghost dog, against a major evil deity and his army of symbiotic space dragons. It's no match on paper, and that's a big part of why this book works so well. They have to hatch a really creative plan to break out Doctor Strange from the top of the Chrysler building and get him to safety without getting destroyed in the process. It's fun, and it's funny, and it's really exciting. The stakes feel massive, given how insanely over their heads they are, and this makes it more relatable compared to some of the other King in Black books. If you do like Black Cat, I'd call this a must-read. DC's Future State is a very different beast to the King in Black event. If you look around online, there's a huge amount of interesting background information on what this event was supposed to be and what it's actually become. And the more you look into it, the more you learn about DC and certain problems that they've had in recent times, some of which are still ongoing and they've affected what Future State is. If you're completely unfamiliar with it, the headlines for what Future State actually is are that the event is set in the aftermath of the hugely popular side series Dark Knight's Death Metal. It's occurring in place of all DC's regular ongoing series, and it takes place in a possible future of the DC universe or multiverse. Future State is supposedly covering 24 new series comprising 52 issues, but halfway through we can see that DC have skewed this a little bit, as many of the issues sold have their main story and then an additional 1 or even 2 related supplemental stories. More realistically, Future State is probably going to be around an 80 issue event, so roughly 10 issues per week, which is a hefty amount of material for even the most dedicated fans to get through. As to when this future is actually set, the Gotham-based titles are set in the year 2025. There's a whole range of titles occurring between the years 2027 and 2030, including The Flash, Aquaman, Suicide Squad, Shazam, Teen Titans, Justice League Dark, and a couple of Superman titles. There's a large number of Superman and Wonder Woman related titles occurring in the year 2050, and from there the word future really seems to mean something, with House of L in the year 3000, Swamp Thing in the year 4500, Black Adam in the year 82020, and Immortal Wonder Woman occurring at the end of time. Very ominous. It would be a huge deal for DC to put all their major ongoing series on hold for 2 months for any reason, but for Future State, it's definitely an eyebrow raiser. Born out of the ashes of a discarded idea, it is a hard sell to get behind the why of Future State. By being deliberately ambiguous and saying that these are multiverse stories and not defining if they have any relation to general DC continuity, it's hard not to consider the entirety of Future State as just an Elseworld scenario. And as such, the looming questions over every story are: why should the reader care? And why is Future State a worthy replacement to DC's ongoing regular series? Now, as something different, completely different, this selection of future-based stories, it's a pretty reasonable idea to try. They're offering a variation on familiar favorites by tweaking them with some sci-fi and some fantasy, so it's not a bad idea. In fact, for readers who consume comic stories from trade paperback collections instead of week-to-week single issues, then Future State's probably not going to be a major concern. You can pick and choose from these stories in their full form once the event is complete, or you have the option to completely sidestep Future State and instead maybe pick up some back catalogue collections in the 2 months of downtime. But for DC's core audience of comic readers, your week-to-weeks, it's a big ask to take away Batman, Superman, Detective Comics, and Wonder Woman for 2 months. You'd want to be certain that what you're replacing them with is a certain hit, and halfway through Future State, it's more of a mixed bag of quality. There is some solid writing and art in this event, and there's also some material that will likely make people ask, why am I reading this? Future State, it does itself no favors with its multiverse ambiguity, introduced via a very small panel towards the start of every issue. In comparison, every issue of King in Black devotes a large, full paragraph to what is going on with the event as a whole, and then a second paragraph recapping specific for the issue. Now, it could be that for an event occurring in different years in time, DC saw it as difficult to set the scene in this manner. But when I jumped into issue 1 of Future State Harley Quinn, I found myself asking what is going on for much of the issue. Strangely, the issue began by retreading the background on who the character of Harley Quinn is, which is pretty well established now over the past 30 years, but not why she was fighting robots. The issue didn't do nearly enough to clarify what was going on in Gotham and why, dropping the reader right in the deep end and then failing to really clarify much as the story progressed. Most frustratingly, reading the first issue of Future State, The Next Batman, after reading Harley Quinn actually filled in a lot of these gaps of missed information. The Next Batman provided a lot more background into Gotham 2025 and the Magistrate as a villain, especially in its supplementary Arkham Knight story, which was packed with exposition. Even though I was really tentative on Future State, one of the key reasons why Future State Harley Quinn was such a must-buy for me was the author Stephanie Phillips. Phillips is going to be taking on the ongoing Harley Quinn series when it recommences in March. And though maybe without a laugh-out-loud funny title in her oeuvre that makes her a standout candidate to be Harley's new long-term writer, she's done a couple of excellent books in the last couple of years. She's also had some more reasonable quality books where either the art has been a bit lacking or the art hasn't really gelled or balanced with the story that she's telling. Now, Simone DeMeo is handling the artwork for Future State Harley Quinn, and if you're unfamiliar with him, his work is highly stylized and original, and when it does land, it's a visual treat. It's stunning. His work on the first issue of 2020's We Only Find Them When They're Dead was exceptional, up there with the best issues of 2020, and together with writer Al Ewing, they established a fantastic futuristic world of humans in deep space salvaging the dead bodies of giant celestial gods for resources. Unfortunately, once the plot defined its focus in a much smaller way as a revenge story between only two people, the scale and majesty of DeMeo's artwork was replaced with frame after frame focused on individual characters, arranged in a pretty frantic and unclear way, and ultimately doing far less to service the story being told. These problems seem to be repeating in Future State Harley Quinn. Some of the individual panels look great, but when considering whole pages and even the entire issue, it's really incohesive. I found myself confused and constantly questioning the artwork. Questions such as, why is this panel a close-up as the character doesn't appear to be expressing anything significant? Why is this panel from further back when there appears to be nothing of importance in a very detailed background? Why have you used blur and lens flare effects on these particular panels? Was the choice to use diagonal and angular non-standard paneling an effective one? Was there consideration before the art was created as to where the dialogue would sit so the pages would actually flow? Was it an effective choice to have a 2-page spread with thin vertical panels that each contain two unrelated occurrences without any clear definition of separation? And most importantly, why, with such thin line work and so many colors that blend into each other, and constantly changing panel sizes and constantly adjusting foreground, middle ground, and background, how is the reader supposed to know what to focus on? And maybe most readers wouldn't have had that many questions. But more obvious artistic problems included expressionless faces that were reused multiple times, and even a couple of panels where I was literally unsure of what I was looking at. I think when an artist has the capacity to deliver excellence, that's when it's really disappointing when they're so far off the mark. I know nothing about Phillips and DeMeo's collaborative process for Harley Quinn, but I would note that this is another example where a book of hers hasn't really landed properly because of the artwork. When Phillips' work on the ongoing Harley series begins, it won't be with DeMeo, but Riley Rossmo. Rossmo has a more cartoonish artistic technique than DeMeo's ultra-stylish manner. However, generally Rossmo's work features a lot more detail than some recent Harley Quinn artists, whose style lends themselves to larger blocks of colour and allows for solid focus on the action, and really importantly with Harley Quinn, the text. Thanks very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more.